Oh, hello and welcome to all the panelists on for this program, which we are organizing in partnership with Beanstalk. Before we get into the program, let me just take a few minutes to set the context. I'm sure all of you will be aware of what we do at ThinkAg, but just let me take a few minutes to talk about it. So we at ThinkAg are promoting adoption of innovation in agricultural sector, essentially through ecosystem building approach, bringing together innovators, investors, industry partners, and trying to stitch pilots and partnerships, which we believe can take a lot of these innovations, thousands and millions of farmers. We have been doing it for the last 4 years and have seen a lot of encouraging results in terms of a lot of these innovative models reaching out to farmers and bringing out a lot of efficiency and transparency and productivity in the supply chains. As part of the ThinkAg, one of our mission is to drive cross-border innovations. And we've been working with multiple countries, multiple partners to make it happen. Recently, we did work with Dutch government in taking Indian startups to European market. We have worked with some of the other countries, especially Australia, and that's where we got in touch with Beanstalk, and we worked. We started to work on the GRAFT program. We started with Vietnam as the first market, and this is the second in series, which is focused on PNG and especially on the cocoa sector. So the whole idea is to how do we take these innovations from some of the markets like India to PNG. And I think a lot of these solutions that we are developing in Indian market are relevant for PNG. So in this session especially, we'll talk of some of the innovations that we see which have potential to go to PNG, and we have 3 innovators joining us who will talk about very specific innovation and how potentially they can be useful for the cocoa sector in PNG. So I welcome you all once again. Thanks for joining us for this session. And with that, I will hand over to Matthew Kanua from MDF. He's the funding partner for GRAFT program. Over to you, Matthew.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody from Papua New Guinea. We funded MDF, stands for Market Development Facility. So we are funded by the Australian government under the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. It is implemented by Palladium with partnerships with MFED. MFED is the DFED equivalent in New Zealand government. So we've got these 2 governments fund this program across a number of countries, 6 or 7, and expanding. And we've got Swiss Contact as well that partners with us in the delivery of the program. And they basically provide technical support. So MDF support businesses and other market players, particularly with technical advisory services. We in selective infrastructure assistance, marketing and promotion, regulatory reforms, and other things. So MDF will go out and talk to a partner, talk to a business investor, and then we would do the diligence, look at the supply chains that they developed and use. For instance, most of our work now is in the commodity sector. So we're working at businesses, we're working with businesses, exporters, SMEs, coffee, cocoa, and vanilla in those sectors. And we would partner them based on what they do, and we would look at the supply chains that they've developed and look at the efficiencies, or if there are any inefficiencies, and the functionality of these supply chains. And if there are issues that we can address, then we would then enter into a intervention agreement with the partners. And our funding to these projects to these businesses is a grant funding. We provide cash. It works on something like 60-40, sometimes 70-30, sometimes 50-50. But basically, we would look at the businesses and put in support. And our support can come in technical advisory services. In other words, we can bring in advisors from overseas. And this is where the beanstalk GRAFT salads come in. So we've sort of supporting them to look at the canvas, the cocoa businesses in Papua New Guinea, which includes the smallholders who produce like 80% of the year. And most of that coffee that is, the cocoa that is produced is smoke taint. This is a fundamental big problem, which is lower the quality of the product and hence the reduce the economic returns to the country. So basically what we're looking at, and this is a very perennial concern in Papua New Guinea. So hopefully using the innovative approach that Beanstalk is using or is applying, we will work together to addressing some of the supply chain issues. Some of the functions like processing of cocoa needs to be improved, and hopefully we can find somebody who can provide the innovative solutions to that based on the work that Beanstalk is doing right now. So yes, MDF works with all these business people and the partners in this vast coffee, cocoa, vanilla, and the food sector, and we look at how we can improve the welfare, the income, and the welfare of everybody who involves in the supply chains, all the actors, from the exporter to the aggregators, the off-takers, right the way down through the smallholders. And so, because this is Australian development capital or the development funding to Papua New Guinea, we have to demonstrate that there is traceability in the work that we do, that there is proof, there is evidence to show that we are not just throwing money around, but there is evidence that the work that we're doing is actually returning a profit, either social or economic, to the people who participate in the businesses where we co-invest in. So I think I'll stop there. I'll let it back to you. So if there are any questions or any issues, we can address them later on.
Thanks,
Okay,
Matthew.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. It's really useful to get your perspective and the potential for innovations in the cocoa supply chain. I think with that, we can go to Justin now, who can talk a little bit more about GRAFT program and how innovators can be part of it.
Great, thanks so much, Amendra, and thanks to the support of ThinkAg in pulling this event together, but also in your continued partnership in developing and deploying the GRAFT program over the years. And thanks very much to Matthew and the rest of the MDF team who've been partners across this lifetime of this program and really helping to set a market-driven and impactful future in Papua New Guinea's cocoa sector. I want to thank the innovators that are joining us today, Amit, Vinay, and Ravindra, but also everybody else who's joined us today and is here to learn more about this program and the Papua New Guinea cocoa space. So give me the chance to, what I'm going to do is share a little bit about GRAFT PNG program, its history, and what we're focusing on now, and why innovators should apply. We're going to spend a little bit of time actually hearing from some innovators from India that are actually solving the challenges in focus for this program. And then we're going to transition to a panel discussion where we can hear a bit more from both our implementing and operation industry partners in Papua New Guinea. First, just a word about Beanstalk. We are an innovation agency dedicated to unleashing the potential for agriculture to be a leading force for good. We support actors from across the agri-innovation ecosystem to bring open innovation capabilities and better insight and strategy into the AgTech space, whether that's working with corporate agribusinesses to better engage technology, working with startups and solution providers themselves to refine their fits and grow to new markets, or working with investors and governments, development agencies to better target what they do. I'm based in Melbourne, but we're stretched across Australia, Singapore, and more broadly, South and Southeast Asia. And a critical initiative of ours over the years previous has been the GRAFT program. So Abhijit, we can go to the next slide. I can talk a little bit about what that is. So what is GRAFT? GRAFT is what we call a land and launch program that's really focused on scaling AgTech solutions into new markets where there's a pressing need. And we really take two sides of this equation very seriously. First is about helping agribusinesses to look beyond the siloed nature of their own geographies and their own backyard to better understand and engage the global ecosystem to solve their most pressing needs. On the other hand, we work with innovators from across the globe to help them land in new markets and set the foundations for long-term commercial growth. So that's the bulk of this program. Abhijit, slide. And want to just start by making a pitch. So we have just opened our open call and campaign for solutions. I'll talk a little bit more about the GRAFT Papua New Guinea program, but the focus is on cocoa and solving smoke taint. I think Matthew gave a bit of background on the challenge itself. Papua New Guinea is about 1 to 2% of the global cocoa supply. So it's not the largest player. However, it's been long regarded as a market producing very fine flavored, high quality cocoa, and is a place where there's several 100,000 smallholders who rely on cocoa for their livelihoods. And it's facing a relatively pressing smoke taint contamination issue, which impacts its market access globally. And we are really interested in engaging global innovators who can help bring solutions from new markets to this problem. So why should innovators apply? We're building a program that will fast track trials and commercial partnerships with leading commercial agribusinesses in Papua New Guinea. We have 3 committed industry partners here to this program. We're thankful to them for helping us to conduct due diligence and really understand the challenges across the supply chain. And Papua New Guinea agriculture company, Outspan, which is a subsidiary of Olam Food Ingredients, and Paradise Foods Limited, who will be core partners in both selecting but then trialing solutions in market. We offer curated market intelligence and advisory services. So we're not going to be dropping innovators into Papua New Guinea blindly. The intent is to help you come in with a clear view of what the market opportunity is, how you can activate it, and how you can help tailor your solution. We'll help you build strategic relationships with vetted service providers and operational partners, whether that's consultants that can help you understand the industry better and make connections, whether that's someone who can help you adapt your technology locally, or distributors. And really importantly, pending, of course, successful kind of trials, there's opportunities for follow-on funding and support to scale through the partnership of development partners like MDF. And lastly, we activate a really large marketing platform in Papua New Guinea, but also throughout the region, especially where GRAFT Papua New Guinea has been activated before in Australia, India, Vietnam, and as well. And we hope that this will strengthen visibility and reputation of your solution with agribusinesses and investors. So we'll leave that with you, especially for the innovators in the crowd that are thinking of as we go. Abhijit, can we go slide? So just to ground you a little bit in the history of the GRAFT Papua New Guinea program, or the GRAFT program in general, we actually this is the 4th time that we're bringing this program to market, and it's all based on the premise of actually helping, knowing that solutions coming from anywhere can hopefully find roots in new markets where there's a pressing issue that they needed. Our first program was a bilateral program between India and Australia back in 2009, where we were working with the support of UPL in India, focused on the challenge of optimizing spray units and smallholder geographies for citrus and quinoa fruit. And Australia, where we're looking at remote sensing for climate smart solutions. with support from the Grains Research Development Council, Burchett Cropping Group, and FarmLink in Australia. In Vietnam, we recently ran a program focused on the shrimp, piggery, and plantation supply chains with support from USAID, from Australian aid, in the Ministry of Science and Technology in Vietnam. We worked with 9 different innovators from 7 different countries to help them adapt their solutions and land in and launch into Vietnam, eventually resulting in at least 5 different trials to date, and several of them securing follow-on investment for them to grow and support and market, and several hundred farmers and aquacultural producers being supported their new solutions today. And now we're extending that program to Papua New Guinea with a focus on solving the issue of smoke taint in the cocoa sector. We've spent the last several months as we'll go through refining our understanding of the challenge at hand, and are now in the midst of moving to an open call for solutions that we'll talk more about now. Abhijit, slide. Just a brief snapshot of our industry, of our impact to date as a program. We've been fortunate enough to work with and support, engage over 50 different industry partners. And so those are more corporate partners that have engaged with the startups coming through our program. Alumni have, since graduating from our program, raised over $110 million in capital, a large part of that then going to expanding in the regions that we're working in. We've facilitated the 8 tech trials for 8 different organizations within the context of this program. Have developed, I think, just through our Vietnam program, just over 3 million online views of media coming through our program. Have supported 14 different innovators to actually build new capabilities, whether that's been hiring staff, establishing in local markets, adapting their solutions, or building new procurement and distribution channels, and are now working our 4th global market for this challenge. Just a couple of examples of commercial partnerships that we've initiated and facilitated through this effort. I mentioned working with UPL in Punjab, primarily focused on quinoa and grains producing and optimizing spray. We actually identified a farm management tool at the time called Fluorosat that has since been rebranded as Regrow, brought them into market to develop a trial for that solution in the citrus space that they've since scaled up in India and elsewhere, and now being supported by Microsoft to scale throughout sub-Saharan Africa. In Vietnam, we were working with several aquaculture companies, including as well as an association called the Vietnam Sustainable Shrimp Association, really looking to solve the challenge about how can small to medium scale shrimp farmers better solve and manage water quality in their ponds remotely, and ended up bringing an innovator from Indonesia called Jolatech to help adapt their solution into Vietnam. We helped them hire new staff, actually adapt their capability from a language and user interface standpoint, and facilitated the scale up of a trial between them, Vietnam Sustainable Shrimp Association, and the Cà Mau government, starting with 300 shrimp farmers in Cà Mau, and that's since been scaled up to 3 different provinces, and Jala's marketing their solution with the local team in Vietnam. And AgNext, which many of you in the Indian AgTech ecosystem will probably be well familiar with, an organization that is an end-to-end provider of advanced quality management solutions. We worked with them, of course, in Vietnam to actually help them set up an office and make a plan to develop their first research and development center outside of India. Help them to identify challenges and opportunities across 4 strategic value chains in Vietnam. And they're now working with Taiwan across the tapioca value chain in Vietnam. So just a snapshot of some of what we've been doing in recent years. Abhijit, slide. So what lies ahead for this project? Well, I'll start with what lies behind. We know that one of the most important components of actually making innovation stick and transferable in a program like this is defining the challenge. And so that's where we overinvest a lot of time, is first understanding discreetly, not just that there's a problem with smoke contamination, but understanding where in the supply chain that's happening, why, and what are some of the incentives and market structures that could change that. That's where we've gotten to a few distinct challenges, which I think we'll share shortly. Over the next 2 months, we're going to be focused on sourcing solutions, and that's where this campaign comes in. We will be conducting a couple of other showcases like this to highlight the role that technology can play in these challenges. And we'll be accepting applications. You can go to graftchallenge.com to learn more and see what that process is like. We're accepting applications to actually tackle these challenges. And from February to May of next year, that's when we'll be implementing and trialing solutions. We'll start with a bit of a boot camp and help innovators to first better understand the PNG marketplace and develop relationships with key mentors and other partners that will help them understand and work within the market. Secondly, we'll help you to design what success looks like for a potential trial experience, potential trial in market with our industry partner that is sponsoring the challenge. And that will be with a facilitated workshop and some intensive support from our team and the partner. And lastly, we'll actually facilitate and financially support an on-site visit that will bring the innovators out to PNG so they can actually plan a trial in greater depth and understand the context within which they'd be deploying. Hopefully from there, pending success, there'll be opportunity to develop a note for a larger scale up from there. So that's the focus of our GRAFT program, and hopefully a roadmap for how we'd be supporting innovators. Slide. So what's really important? The challenges and focus. So we have 3 different challenges that are being officially supported and sponsored by 3 different industry partners who I mentioned today, and who will learn more about throughout this showcase, but also throughout this campaign. The first is improving the viability of wood fire alternative heat generation to power community scale dryers. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 500 smallholders at a time. We're working with PNG Agriculture Company, who's a large cooperative and a farmer-owned cooperative focused on the cocoa supply chain in Papua New Guinea that is supporting livelihoods and other development activities for over 1,000 different households. And this is really focused on understanding how we can actually generate enough heat to be drying cocoa beans without generating the smoke that contributes to smoke contamination within the dryer. Happy to share a bit more about that challenge. The second is reducing the cost of repair and maintenance for kiln and flue pipes and conventional small-scale cocoa dryers. We're working with Paradise Foods Limited, which is one of the largest food conglomerates in Papua New Guinea and has a brand called Queen Emma's Chocolate, which is the only chocolate being produced in Papua New Guinea and a well-known and reputable national brand. And this is really understanding that of the 10 to 20,000 dryers that exist in Papua New Guinea, over 99% of them are these traditional conventional wood-fired ovens, and a large part of the smoke actually escapes when these materials are falling out of disrepair. And so better tackling the challenge of and cost efficiency of repair and maintenance can go a long way in reducing the impact of smoke. The third is in preserving cocoa quality by reducing wet beans exposure to indirect smoke. This is in partnership with Outspan. And fortunately, we'll have Victor Ganguly, who is the business manager of Outspan PNG, to talk a little bit more about this challenge and others today. This is really acknowledging that even while we have a lot of smoke is actually generated by the dryers and the drying process themselves, there's a lot of smoke that enters into the atmosphere of wet cocoa beans coming from wood-fired ovens or rubbish that's being burned and other indirect sources of smoke, and looking for opportunities that can cost efficiently manage and counter that is in focus for us. So those are the three challenges that are primarily in focus, and we're looking forward to hearing feedback and innovators that can help us to tackle pieces of these or related issues today. Slide. Okay, so really thankful to have Ravindra, Amit, and Vinay joining us today and to hear more about some of the solutions and that BMH, Infu, and SV Agri are advancing in India and more generally. We've been kind of looked at many different solutions. Are really interested to hear more about their solutions and how they perceive the opportunity and potential in Papua New Guinea and in cocoa. So I'll hand it back to Hemendra, who can facilitate the conversation from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin, for there's some echo, I guess. Thanks, Justin, for sharing more about the GRAFT and also the problem statements, which is specific to 3 different industry partners. I think they're very, very specific, so that's pretty good. And with that, we'll move to Innovator Showcase, and we have 3 very promising entrepreneurs on the call. And maybe I can ask Ravindra from BMH Transmotion to start with, and then we can go to Amit and Vinay. Ravindra, over to you.
Thank you. So my screen is visible now?
No, Ravindra. Yeah, it is.
Now it is.
Yeah. Good morning, friend. I am Ravindra Dekate from BMH Transmotion. BMH is a company. We generally focus on development of new technology, whatever is required by the client. So we started our journey from mining, steel and coal sector. Then from last 5 years, we are working on post-harvest technology, especially on storage field. If you take the cocoa, generally on farm, the farmers, they process it at farm level as per their previous experience. They are doing the drying and the fermentation activity as per their experience and to maintain the quality, and it is up to the market acceptance level. In any beans or anything, any pulses or anything, if you consider, you will find there are 3 major factors which is required to be maintained during the storage. That is moisture, temperature, and one of the most difficult factor is relative humidity. So we will discuss on these 3 issues right now. If you consider the moisture in cocoa beans, it should be around 8%. Temperature generally lower than 25 degrees centigrade. In some places it is written 20 degree, and some places is advisable is 25 degrees centigrade. Relative humidity, which is the most difficult to control, it is 50%, around 50%. In our storage system, we have the aeration system. There are 2 types of aeration system in our system: natural draft aeration system, and another is forced draft aeration system. For forced draft, we are generally installing the equipment like blowers and other thing, and we control the draft to up to the required level, and we control the temperature with the forced draft aeration system. Our godown is hermetic godown, means is totally sealed. Whatever air inside the godown will be converted after some time in CO2. So whatever insect activity and other things will not begin due to non-availability of the oxygen. What generally all these insects and mold propagates in availability of the oxygen. So there is no activity, and we can control all these organisms with in hermetic go down. Now, in some cases, they are there is a possibility to introduce the nitrogen gas to control over the total losses of the system. In our go down, we have a very different type of handling system. All the beans they have the protective covering given by the nature during handling. Such type of protective covering is generally it get damaged, and due to this activity there is a lot of quality losses. So we have cascade type of loading system, so that there will be a smooth and soft loading during the storage in godown. Our main feature in our storage systems are we have the moisture control over it. Moisture is controlled with the hot air. Sometimes we have to give the cold air. It depends upon the temperature inside the godown. We have the monitoring system in total godown. Temperature also monitoring with the probe. It is Wi-Fi. It has a Wi-Fi control system, and it gives the figures in maybe 15-20 minutes, or sometime in 1 hour, whatever we can is required by the client. Fumigation is not required because it is a hermetic godown, and cocoa can be stored for a longer period. We have developed a fabric for storage of such type of any type of beans or grains or anything. It is fire retardant, flame retardant, and it's a food safe. It is UV resistant because it is made out of a steel structure of, so there is risk of earthquake is very less, and it can be shifted from one place to another place in very shortest possible time. And our go down, if you want to install weighing system, total storage can be monitored with the load cell weighing system. And we have the close monitoring system for moisture, temperature, and humidity also inside the godown. So this is a godown which we have proposed for the cocoa beans. It's a tubular structure. Each tube is having capacity of 25 metric ton. It has a forced because of its length. It has and the pressure. It works under the principle of chimney. So there is a pressure difference. So difference between lower height to the higher height, and it has a force drop from the bottom to maintain the moisture level. If during the storage, if the moisture level is high in cocoa beans, it can be brought down to 8% with the sensor. And it has a total monitoring system in throughout the tube. So this is a aerial view of it. So it's a close view of each tube. It has a aeration system which is mounted on the below of each tube, and it has a loading and unloading system in the bottom. It's a fully mechanized loading unloading system in each tube, and loading is also fully mechanized and automatic system. This we have developed for the central government. Is a foldable cool storage which we have supplied for the Maharashtra to Maharashtra government government of India has given free of cost to the farmers. We have supplied for the custard apple and 3 units to the Nepal government for oranges and kiwi and some more other fruits. So we still have the orders for the cool storage for chili and mogara and other thing from central government. Thank you. This is about our technology. Any question?
No, thanks, Ravindra. This is very useful, very interesting solution. Couple of questions. Can you give some idea on the pricing? How does it work? And has this system already been deployed in cocoa industry, or this will be the first time you'll be?
This I made it for the pulses before then. Now I just gone through the behavior of the cocoa beans. So I thought this solution will work because everybody, it is very, you can say it's a tubular technology, very easy to control all those parameters. If it is hermetic also, if it is, you want to reduce the moisture, if you want to control over relative humidity, if you go with the relative humidity, a lot of equipment is required to control over it because air should not have the moisture. As you said, for the there is a lot of wood and other things are available, so we can make such a system by which we can heat the air without humidity. So it is very difficult to separate out the humidity factor with the air, but it can be removed. And as you said, the smoke, whatever smoke is generated during all those parameters, we have the capability and capacity to develop such a scrubber which can separate out the smoke, whatever carbon is generated during in the process of heating, burning of this firewood. All those can be controlled with this.
Okay, great. That's very interesting. So maybe we'll come back to you, Ravindra. With that, we can go to our next innovator, and that's Amit from Infiulabs.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for the organizing team for giving us the opportunity to present here. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen with you all, and then I'll briefly take you towards our work at Infiulabs. I hope my screen is visible to everyone and I'm properly audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Amit Shrivastava, co-founder, CEO of Infiulabs, where we are working towards creating portable technologies to determine internal quality of perishables, non-perishables, FNV, without cutting them at the source of procurement itself. So before we come towards the solution, let me briefly describe to you the problem we have seen into the entire supply chain, the food supply chain, as we are saying. You know, when we talk about just FNVs, fruits and vegetable, you know, up to 1/3 of the perishable across the entire world gets into wastages. But when it comes to a country like India, the number shoots to 48 to 52%, which means that half of the produce which we are growing is actually getting into wastages at different nodes of the supply chain. If it's at grower, if it's at storage, if it's at transportation, or so on. So we see that's very bigger problem to say, because a country like India, who's being largest producer of lot of commodities across the entire world, if you are wasting half of it, it's becoming a very painful thing to see. In so then we deep dive into further understand the problem across this. So all of this things you would be seeing: farms, cold storage, packaging, export, collection center, distribution. These all we call as a node where any transaction of a perishable or non-perishable is happening. The transaction we are referring here is from a grower, the commodity is coming towards cold storage, or a cold storage that's going towards collection center. At each of these places, there has to be a decision of purchasing to be taken, whether the consignment which I'm bringing in is good to go over here or not. Now, this is where our major problem comes, because a good amount of time, the decision making taken here is based on very low sample size. We are talking about there are segments where barely 0.05 to 0.1% of the entire consignment is used as a sample size to determine any trend. And we know that from the fact that statistics / mathematics says that it's invalid to determine any trend at all at first place. So why these are the challenges over the ground is, a good amount of time there is a guesstimate in the decision making of the consignment, whether it's good to hold into a storage or good to go to for any transportation, or even selling it at a local mandi and so. Secondly, there is a bare to less skill force available at the ground to take a proper decision making, and that is why the industries, even growers as well, suffer from huge losses when they store something and they realize that, okay, this is not going ahead anywhere. So third, there is a good amount of manual data entry with no traceability involved. So with that means that if there are multiple vendors, growers, and so keeping track of who brought what sort of consignment at what day and which we have to send it today or tomorrow, it becomes pretty cumbersome. And at a big warehouse level, segregating any lot from one to other or vendor wise, and so it becomes pretty challenging, as we have seen not just in perishable industry. There are not a lot of non-perishable which occurs over there, like figuring out what sort of lot is it. Now, what it leads to further, everyone, is towards a mistrust in the quality between a buyer and a seller, where buyer would like to have some specific quality to buy in or to take it into the market, but good amount of time it's not met. And it's not even the problem from the grower side. The decision making which is occurring into both of these nodes is not actually data back. It's more of guesstimate back in that case. So what we are doing in this ecosystem is we have created IoT based handheld device which can determine the internal quality of fresh fruits, vegetables, perishable, non-perishable, without cutting them at the source of procurement itself. So with this, we are ensuring that you don't need to send the sample towards a lab. Rather, it's a lab in your pocket which is going towards a sample. Whether it's at grower site, it's at warehouse, even it's at transaction, any node of it. And all of this we do without without cutting the samples, without destroying it. So we are basically saving the larger sample set over there as well, and making the process much faster. We barely take if I talk about fruits, we barely take 3 to 4 seconds to determine all of these quality parameters which has been required into the industry. And something like bricks, pH, firmness, ripeness, dry matter, moisture content, which is actually very relevant in cocoa industry, or shelf life, and so on. So further, we would like to ensure a quality standardization between the entire nodes, not in a domestic level, even at an international level where, two countries can talk in one language about the quality rather than mapping out the reports and all. So as of now, we have been present across 19 plus SKUs like apples, mangoes, or all citrus category like, orange, sweet lime, or even hard shell commodity. Even in certain cases, like if you pick pomegranates, we can even determine its internal color without cutting it just from outside, or something like in mangoes, we can even determine whether a mango is carbide ripened or non-carbide or naturally ripened, which is a pretty big issue, in certain industries, because carbide being carcinogenic in nature, a prolonged consumption of that could lead to cancer or a lot of deformities in child. So this is how our entire ecosystem looks like. We work at different nodes at different levels. So when you talk about distribution center, collection center, cold storage, warehouse, through our solution, the QA takes the decision onto the consignment, whether it's good to go to store or to hold or to reject, or to send it to local mandi. So that sort of enabling we do. So to do a comparison, earlier to take any decision onto a lot, it would take anyone between 1 hour 15 to 1 hour 30 minutes, even to a skilled labor. That we have reduced it down to even less than 5 minutes to take a decision onto it. And we see that criticality playing a major role over here. More than that, we are not just limited to this part. We also work with FPOs, growers over there. We actually grade their commodity. We generate a graded report onto it. And that report we supply it to big buyers so that they can, have a graded sourcing, because we feel that the quality which a grower is growing in, or the best quality any FPO is bringing in, they should get the credit for that as well. So that linkage also we do. Lastly, when it comes to retail and e-grocers as well, we also ensure farm to fork QR based quality traceability to know what sort of quality assessment is happening at what all of my nodes as well. So that's all. With this, we ensure that in the entire supply chain, we are actually bridging the gap of quality which was earlier there. So right now, our local consumer would be knowing that from which farm my fruit was there, what was its quality, what all notes it was brought in, and giving the authentic touch of what you would require. So giving you a bit of gist of the entire platform, apart from our device, we also have this, dashboard which can be used for keeping the track of all inventory. Something like knowing that what's the condition of my consignment is today, what was the quality trend. If you have a different regions where you source and procure, you can actually do a good analytics on it. You can use a lot of models to understand which is the right time to pick something and which is the right time to sell something. And with that, we are enabling some sort of CIBIL score based system where we can actually even rate your vendors, because there are always vendor who always brings you a best quality in mind, and we feel that they should be rewarded accordingly as well. So with this, we are ensuring a quick and easy decision making into the entire lot and making it digitized. Then further, with our QR based quality traceability, the consumer would know everything about the consignment, which would like to display like my source of location, which is a heavy concern nowadays, or the way it was harvested, the way it was grown as well at a grower level, and so on, and as well as my nutritional benefit of it. So this is how our presence. We are majorly focused in India, as like we have been present across 15 plus cities in India and have been working with 30 B2B clientele as well. Further, we are also putting our legs into a region in Ghana and certain part of that as well, where we are also bridging the gap in Indo-Ghana ecosystem. So if I take the case of cocoa itself, we feel that it's directly relevant, the requirements into the segment right now, because for example, in cocoa, one needs to know what is my moisture content, what is my storage time, how much time it was already stored as well, what's my temperature, or even if there is a temperature or humidity difference as well. So like these facts you would be knowing about the requirement of a moisture content and so, or even temperature. Now let me portray you a bit another level of requirement over here is, if there is a temperature difference at different nodes when this cocoa would be traveling in, their quality degradation, the rate of degradation itself is going to increase, because you are passing the commodity from different environmental changes, and that becomes a challenging issue. Same goes with in here humidity, or even knowing my growing condition as well. So by knowing all of these aspects as well, one can actually ensure what is my grade of the cocoa, or even it's a good grade, bad grade, or even take a decision onto it. So by having a traceable module over there, you would be knowing that when it was harvested, what was the growing condition at that time, what was even at a soil level, what was its NPK estimation, to even pre-predict the quality before even it's been consumed by the consumer, or even keeping track record of fermentation or fumigation processes as well. Because if in case the labors is sufficient, well and good, but the moment it's not, doing a over fumigation or under fumigation itself is going to lead to a larger quality losses as well. Same goes with keeping track of cultivation and so on. So we feel that becomes an interesting proposition of quality traceability into the case of cocoa as well. So with that in said, I would like to end my presentation. It was really lovely to speaking with you, and we have been receiving support from quite a amazing partner. In fact, ThinkAg is one of that who have been supporting us throughout our journey in this part. So pleasure talking to you. Would love to take any question for that.
Thanks, Amit. This was very informative.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of the quality parameters that you track? Are these physical parameters? Are these biochemical, chemical? What all parameters do you track?
So as of now, we have been tracking qualitative parameters. So something like in case of perishables, we track what's the sweetness of a fruit is, which is called Brix in local language, pH, firmness, which decides the whether a commodity is suitable for transportation or not, or ripeness, shelf life, moisture content, dry matter, or in certain cases, we have been able to touch a microbiological level as well. Let's say in case of mangoes, determining whether mango is carbide ripened or naturally ripened as well. And more of this qualitative parameter we involved in. And then apart from that, in this traceability module, we also been able to bring the physical aspects of it, the knowing my storage condition or time or temperature duration as well. So that sort of modules also we have created and involved with this ecosystem.
And Amit, I can assume that some of these solutions that you've developed in multiple supply chain can be applicable to cocoa, right?
Yes, right. In fact, sir, we have been also in touch with some Indian partner who would be having a supply chain in not just indirectly in this case, but raw coffee beans, unroasted one, and that we are jointly working together to ensure how we can help them to understand which lot is suitable for them to take it out today, or which lot they can store it for, let's say, another 1 week or 2 weeks and so on.
Okay, great. I hope you get a chance to work in PNG and on cocoa supply chain.
Thanks. We are really looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks very much. And with that, we'll go to the last presentation of the day, and that's from Guinea from SV Agri. Over to you, Guinea.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just share my screen, please. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Guinea, we can.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So to begin with, and since we are constrained by the time, let me quickly take you all through my company. So we as a company, as SV Agri, have two verticals. So the first vertical is the agriculture, and the second one is the engineering. In the agriculture vertical, we have a division called seed, where we have some AI-based aeroponics labs. What we do in these aeroponics labs, we develop new varieties of seeds for potatoes. And till now, we have launched more than 20 plus varieties, and more than 16 varieties are in pipeline. We have a joint venture with Agrico, which is the world's largest seed producer. We have leased approximately 300 acres of farmland, where we check the seeds which we have developed in our lands. And we have contract farming with approximately more than 20,000 farmers in approximately 800 plus acres of land. And we also control the potato supply chain. For that, we have 10,000 metric ton of cold store space also. And recently, we have launched a new variety of potato, which we call as Charisma, which is a low glycemic index potato. The conventional potatoes, which have approximately 75-20% of GI, this low GI potato Charisma, we have decreased the glycemic index to 50% only. Then we have a potato supply chain network also. We work with more than 80% of the potato processors of the country. We have a chain of cold stores where we store the potatoes. We procure the potatoes from the farmers, and we store that potato in the cold store, and thus we control the supply chain of the potatoes also. We are present, our cold stores, our farmers are present in more than 13 plus states in India. We have a large network of institutional buyers for the potatoes and potato-based product also. We are also into value-added products. For example, the first picture shows about the Charisma. Then we also have production facilities, for example, potato flakes, potato strips, and potato chips, which we also sell in the market. Being a responsible organization, we have some level of responsibility for the country and the environment also. So till now, we have by the technology which we have saved more than 36 million liters of water. and we have approximately decreased the CO2 content by 3K. We are working with more than 14 FPOs across the country, and by the application of the aeroponics lab, we have increased the potato cultivation productivity by more than 30%. Now coming on to the second division of our company, which is the engineering one. In the engineering verticals, we produce a machine for the snacks industry. We are basically OEMs for the snacks industry. And we are very much specialized in some of the cooking technologies. For example, the popping for popcorns. We also have the technology for the roasted nuts, for example, cashew, pista, almonds, and all the seeds. We are very much comfortable with the extruded products. We all must have consumed those Cheetos, Kurkure, and all those. We are also very much keen in the production process of the potato chips, and we also have the technology about the coated nuts also. Now coming on to the technology, we have some technical solutions. For example, the frying, and being a potato-based industry, we also have the solution for the potato processing. We have the solution for the extrusion to produce those tangos, nachos, and all those. Then also we have the technology for roasting of the nuts, whether being the peanuts, cashews, and all, and eventually we have the technology for the drying. That can be cocoa beans, cashews, peanuts, or anything. We have a 17,000 square feet of manufacturing facilities with an in-house development team where we develop innovative snack products for the customers. We have an in-house automation team, and we have an R&D facilities with these some of the trial machineries which we have. The services which we provide begins from the consultancy. We talk to the customer, we understand his problem statement. Then we find out the technology. We merge the technology to generate the solution for the customer, and eventually it comes down to installation and after sales. So to present one of the case study, the process begins like this. Our sales team meets with the customer. The customer tells us about his requirement of the snack, what type of snack he wants to make, the texture and all. All those customer requirements are passed on to our product development team. Keeping the view of the customer's requirement, the product development team creates some samples of the product. Those samples are sent back to the customer. The customer selects a sample which he would like to produce. Once the sample has been selected, then we work on the plant layout, the machinery selection and all. Once the machinery selection has been done, then the manufacturing of the machinery, installing that machinery on the customer site, and so on. So recently we developed a product for a customer called Cornitos, and that product was awarded as one of the best innovative product of the year in CIAL Paris. And we also received a patent for that product. These are some of our customers with which we work. Now coming on to the problem statement. So the key constraints which this problem statement has is that the fuel source should be renewable, and we do not have any supply of the electric power, and the cocoa beans should have zero contamination and all. So the solution which we propose is that we have a waste cocoa shell. We produce heat energy by those cocoa shell. By using that heat and energy, we generate electric power. We use that electric power to operate electricity-based ovens. When we dry the cocoa beans in a controlled environment. The byproduct of this process, which is the cocoa shell ash, can be used as an alkalizing agent for cocoa nibs. This is a small animation of the complete process. So the process on the left-hand side is basically to generate power by burning the shell. Then from the generator, with the help of the conductive wires, we power our electricity-based oven. This power generation and oven can be placed at two separate locations, so to eliminate any possibility of the contamination because of the smoke. These are some of the pictures. This is a working model of the oven. The process of drying of cocoa beans is very much similar to the process of drying of pistachio. So we have implemented this oven successfully for the case of pistachio. And the video on your right shows the movement of the product inside the oven. By using this kind of technology, we can decrease the drying time from many days to some hours. We can also incorporate some sensors to control the temperature, the humidity, the air velocity, and all. The advantages which we get by this technology is that we can reuse the cocoa shells. The cocoa beans are dried in a closed chamber, which is very far away from the smoke. We can also incorporate various time temperature combinations also. The byproduct, which is cocoa waste, can be used for alkalizing cocoa nibs. There will not be any wastage of the cocoa beans. Since the technology is completely made with stainless steel, therefore we eliminate any chances of damage. To produce a cocoa beans of approximately 100 kilos an hour, we require a power of 15 kilowatt. And to produce a power of 15 kilowatt, we require approximately 20 kilos of cocoa shells. And how SB Agri can contribute to this challenge? Since we have the mastery over the potato supply chain here, we can also create a value-added supply chain for the cocoa beans also. And since we are in contact with more than 10,000 plus farmers, we have a better wedge on the agriculture prospect also. Being an engineering companies also, we can process the various forms of cocoa in terms of the powder, chocolate, and all. And we have a vast network of cold storage, so we have the capability to control the supply chain and also. And since we are in contact with a majority of the snack processing companies, so we have a customer base for the cocoa beans also. And thank you. So, any questions, please?
Thanks, Viren. This is very useful. You, in fact, presented the solution on the problem statement. This is wonderful. And I know that engineering division at SV Agri has done a fantastic job in launching a lot of innovative food products. And of course, you have given some examples already. And I think your expertise can be very useful for the problem statement that we have for the cocoa supply chain in PNG. So we definitely look forward to your guidance and support and participation in the program. So thanks very much, Vinay. This is extremely useful, and thanks for presenting the solution right away as part of this presentation.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
So thanks very much. And so these were three very wonderful and relevant presentations from the three innovators. We thank them for this participation. Please stay with us. We may have few more questions and answers. And with that, we'll go to Bikash from MDF. And we'll request Bikash to talk about MDF priorities in PNG, agribusinesses and cocoa in particular. Any examples of the partnerships and achievements that you have done will be extremely useful. And also understand your expectations from GRAFT and how you can support some of the innovators who presented today and who will be participating in the program. So over to you, Vikash.
Thank you, Hemendra, and good afternoon to everyone. So MDF or Market Development Facility, I think Matthew has already spoken about the project and the kind of work that we do in not just in Papua New Guinea, but other Pacific nations as well. So in Papua New Guinea, the work that MDF does is in agriculture sector, and it focuses mostly on cocoa, coffee, and vanilla sector. And we also have some work in livestock as well as honey. So our modality of work is, a thing called an approach called market systems development. So what we do is, like, rather than implementing solutions or proposing a solution and doing some direct delivery to the farmers who actually need this innovation, we look for agribusinesses or other relevant stakeholders who would have, let's say, who would need to do this job. So, and after identifying these agribusinesses or relevant stakeholders, we kind of go into a partnership, and it's a co-investment model that we work on. And through this kind of work, we intend to benefit the farmers at the end. And our work is mostly to benefit the smallholder farmers, but rather than giving them the things directly, we do it through the agribusinesses. As Matthew earlier suggested, the kind of support that we give to these agribusinesses or relevant stakeholders are in the form of technical advisory services, and also through the form of grants and things for to implement certain activities. Our main focus is, as I said earlier, is also in cocoa sector. In cocoa sector, we have been working with very renowned agribusinesses that are present in Papua New Guinea. And the work in cocoa sector, our work in cocoa sector has been focusing on things like certification and also extension services, and to develop some new supply chains in cocoa as well. Now, cocoa is a very important crop in the context of Papua New Guinea. Although the production volume and the volume that it exports is quite less compared to other bigger exporters, the flavor or the flavor profile of Papua New Guinea is supposed to be one of the best. And that is the reason why the cocoa that is exported from Papua New Guinea is liked so much. However, in recent times, or there have been a lot of challenges, and one of the challenges that has been very prominent is the challenge of smoke taint. High-end chocolate makers, they demand cocoa that have that don't have smoke taint, but the kind of drying technology that is used to dry cocoa in PNG involves burning of firewood and the smoke that is tainting this cocoa. So the smoke taint, actually, it has this carcinogenic effect, and that's why these high-end chocolate makers are now rejecting cocoa that has smoke taint in it. So while we were talking to agribusinesses on how to solve this problem, what we found out was, like, there wasn't much technology or solution present in the context of Papua New Guinea. So what we thought was, there should be some sort of a solution that around the world which we can actually search for and look for ways to implement it in Papua New Guinea. And in that process, we have partnered with Beanstalk AgTech, who have done these GRAFT challenges in other parts of the world. And through them, what we are doing is kind of identifying and zeroing in on the challenges and looking for solutions. So this webinar actually is first of its kind, and we are going to have more such programs to look for solutions and have these conversations started in the forum. As Justin earlier mentioned, the application and problem statements are available in the GRAFT Challenge website, and we are looking for solutions to the smoke taint problem in cocoa in Papua New Guinea. And what I would request is, when we are thinking of solutions, we have to understand the context that Papua New Guinea works in. There are lots of smallholder farmers that are involved in cocoa sector in PNG. So the solution, whatever is proposed, needs to be viable and feasible so that it can be implemented and can benefit the smallholder farmers. So that is something that we need to look at. And also the working environment and the conditions of working in PNG needs to be considered. So this is some message that I would like to send across, saying the working environment should be considered, and the kind of solution that is proposed needs to be viable and something that the agri-businesses are willing to take on, and it should benefit the smallholder farmers as such. So I thank everyone and thank the organizers for this event, and looking forward to more such wonderful communication or conversation happening, and looking forward to innovators coming up with solutions to solve this smoke taint problem in cocoa in PNG. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Vikash, and thanks for all the support to the program. Really appreciate it. And with that, we'll go to Victor from Outspan, and would love to learn OFI's experience bringing innovation to cocoa space. And if you can also talk about some of the challenges at hand, starting with smoke taint, but more generally in cocoa space. And for you, what would success in GRAFT looks like? If we have to solve for some of these challenges which has been shared earlier by Justin in his presentation.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Can you hear me? Because I'm in a region where the network is not that great. But again, yeah, can you hear me? Because
yes,
Justin, yeah, great.
Yep.
Thank you for having me here, first of all, and also sorry for being late. I was stuck up in some other meeting. So I was just listening to the last presentation, and the solution is typically fantastic. So I will just come to the point, Vinay. So typically what happens in PNG or you product called cocoa, right? So the cocoa beans typically are transferred directly to the exporter. It is unlike raw cashew nut, or it is unlike pistachio, where you are transporting the cashew along with the shell. So when you are giving the raw cashew nut to the processors, they are also segregating that cashew from the nut or from the shell, right? And that's why you are generating the shell. It typically doesn't happen with the cocoa. So the very first point of producing the shell in cocoa is not happening. So your solution with that will not happen. So that is the first point. Second issue, what we are facing here, which Vikas was already mentioned, is that in PNG context, the farmers are very, very small holder farmers. Typically, their average land is like 0.5 hectare. Production is somewhere like 400 to 500 kg. So I mean, it's a very small land. So the innovation that we are looking into should be the cost-effective solution, right? So that is one thing. The second problem in PNG is the weather. I mean, most of the part in PNG, they are under huge rainfall. So getting a sunlight is a great day if you get sunlight, right? So to dry the cocoa. So I mean, these two are the biggest challenges in drying the cocoa. But the main issue what we are facing is the weather, and the second issue is the how cost effective the solution can be, right? So I mean, these two are the biggest thing for us. So as I guess Vikas was mentioning that some of the cocoa which goes to some program, we have some programs running in PNG with Lint, Mars, and Puratos. So some cocoa goes as sun-dried bean. So to get that sun-dried bean is a huge challenge. I mean, because of the rainfall and because of the, the kind the farmers are drying the cocoa with. So that becomes a huge challenge. How to mitigate that? I mean, cocoa board of PNG have solution, but then that solution cost, per fermenter or per farmer level, somewhere like $30,000 to implement that. So we are looking at the range of $30,000 for that implementation, but then that's a huge cost. So that's the reason that I'm giving you the upper limit. To be very frank, the $30,000 is the max value what a fermentary owner is, looking at. But we are also seeing a smaller version or, another option, which can cost somewhere like $5,000 to $7,000. So that is a lower limit. So I mean, just to be very, very practical and giving you a direct thing. So this is the, you can say the cost which a fermentary, if it has to be sustainable, until unless, MDF or any other partner like EU or USAID, they support. If a fermentary or a farmer has to support themselves, then they are looking at this budget, like from $5,000 to $7,000 on a bare minimum, solar dryer or a combination dryer. So that's what the budget is. So, I mean, you guys have to see like what best technology that can come up in PNG context, which can be also a cost-effective one. That's it from my side. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Victor, for your guidance. Really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us today. So with that, we can move over to the three innovators once again. And my question to all of them, what are the challenges they see when you're looking at a market like PNG? And if you have any specific asks from the GRAFT program, we'll be happy to hear that. What kind of support would be helpful for you? Any local connections, any validation in the market? What it will take for you to get into PNG, and what support this program can provide to you?
Yeah. Hi, sir. So, being a technology company, and since we are also working with majority of the farmers, so we would like to connect with someone from the PNG to give us a basic idea on the grassroots level. As Mr. Victor just said, that power and cocoa shells and weather, these are some of the major challenges in PNG. So if we get to know about these constraints, then it would be very much in developing the solution and all this.
Great. I hope, Justin, we should just take note of it. And anything from Ravindra and Amit?
I think cost will be the major factor for this project. Whatever technology we have shown you, it is very expensive. If the cost is a binding for it, then we have to think accordingly. Because
Yes, just to jump in.
whatever solution which we gave you is it is for the very large storage of cocoa beans.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Ravindra and Amit. I really did not follow up your presentation. If it is possible later on, if you can share me the presentation. But I do understand, looking at Vinay's presentation, I understood that it's mostly for the large scale. I mean, the kind of facility which, so kind of facility which Vinay also showed for the pistachio is same kind of facility we used in, the raw cashew nut, which we call Borma facility, right? So this is typically in the processing end, and that's what I was saying, that in the origin, we are working with the farmers and not in the processing side, right? So we have to see a very, the technology can be minimized to a small level, maybe. Just giving you a hint, if what Vinay was saying, that to burn the cocoa shell, I mean, the farmer should find an incentive, first of all, to burn that, right? Is there any economics out of it? I mean, again, in cashew perspective, you also find CSNL, which is the cashew shell nut liquid. They also tend to, make an economy out of it, right? So we have to see whether the farmer has a benefit, economical benefit, whether he is able to burn that thing, right? Second thing is that, again, the problem is the burning. Moment you start burning, then that smoke will come into the cocoa itself. So then you have to see a technology in a very small one, right? A very small technology which can eliminate that burning. I mean, you burn the cocoa shell, that is fine, but then you invent something which is able to trap that smoke and not allowing the smoke to go to the cocoa, but only the heat is going, but in a very small scale, right? Not a big investment kind of a thing.
I think that is not a very big issue. We can control the whatever smoke that is generated during the process. It can be collected and it can be processed with a very not expensive solution. That scrubber can be designed accordingly, and it's very cheap nowadays. So the smoke can be controlled, and the heat, whatever heat is generated, it can be circulated through the pipes, and that can be done. No, it's not very big issue as a technology part. If you think about it, it's not a big challenge for anybody in the world.
Right.
And sir, do we have any possibility that we set up this plant and the farmers can use this plant on pay and use basis?
No, so it's not a centralized location kind of thing. I mean, the farmers are typically scattered all over, and they are the ones who are doing in their level, and then they bring the fermented, dried cocoa beans to the exporters.
Okay.
So if you ask me, like, if it is centralized location kind of a setup, no, it's not. Right. So, and it's, again, as I was saying, a fermentary typically dries or processes wet cocoa bean at a level of 5 tons, which is the drying side. So in the whole year, he's just doing 10 tons. So that is the scale. I mean, it's a very small scale.
Yeah.
It is nothing like, and PNG in that ways, it's the smallest country which produces, I mean, in terms of volume. So out of the 5 million ton production of cocoa in the whole world, it's only 30,000 metric ton is being produced in PNG. So you can understand the way it's a very small scale volume based, right? So it doesn't make sense to have a huge investment capital infrastructure in place.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, sorry.
To be honest, I mean, 95% of the population there's no power, right? So that is just a number I'm giving out of my own experience. I don't know the exact figure, but that is how it is. Even the cities, we face a lot of power crunch. It's only the genset which runs. So, and that is like in the proper houses I'm talking about. Leave the farmers. So farmers are basically in the dark side of the world. So there's no power, basically. Yeah. So again, the solution to that, I mean, your equipment should be a, kind of a self-driven without the power kind of a thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. No, these are very relevant questions and good to understand a bit more about the market and the size and I think some nitty-gritties. I think power is definitely one of them. The power availability, because that also changes the economics quite a bit for a lot of these solutions. So I think this engagement should go on, in my opinion, because I think it needs a few more discussions to really tailor make solutions which are not just relevant but also economical for the farmers, the cocoa farmers in PNG. So yeah, I think with that, I think we can conclude now. It's been a great discussion. Thanks to all the participants, Vikash, Victor, Ravindra, Amit, and Vinay. It's been a very insightful discussion. And from ThinkAg side, we would like to support this program and continue this engagement so that we build solutions specific to the problem statement that has been shared. And I thank you all. And with that, I'll hand over to Justin for any concluding remark that he may have.
Thanks so much, Ramendra. Abhijit, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so I want to say thanks, especially to Ravindra, to Amit, to Vinay for sharing your solutions. And I hope that this discussion has already shown what, even from a small industry perspective, what a unique and dynamic industry it is. Like, I think we've heard a great deal, and thanks so much for Victor for sharing, for Vikash for sharing very much more about what MDF is doing in the space and the various ways that we could be supporting innovation to take on, but also Victor for sharing some of the practical realities and challenges that we're dealing with. And I think it'd be really interesting to continue the conversation and think about how this looks in different supply chains as well, where in some places of cocoa, there's some level of centralized processing, and where it looks different in different regions. So hope that this just gives a taste about the challenge of kind of building fit for purpose technology. And we're really interested to continue those conversations. Please do reach out directly to me or to Vikash if you have any other further questions. And please do learn more at graftchallenge.com/Papua New Guinea. And for all the innovators out there who have something that might be a fit for our challenge, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Please do apply now. Thank you, and thanks especially to Hamendra and Abhijit and the ThinkAg team who put so much effort to help us pull this together and have been really treasured partners to us over the lifetime of the GRAFT Challenge program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.